computer-activated iguana.
Hello, guess who it is? It's Ian Gibbs, and welcome back to my ability comparison series. In today's video, I thought we'd do something a little different. You know, shake it up a bit. For you see, this is not only the first ability comparison about something completely imagined and designed by the AUT and Sakura Stan developers. Yes, they make OCs alongside JoJo and third-party stuff, my kind of wet dream. But it's also the first to not compare the exact same ability across two games. More so the same theme. Robotic constructs with neon green energy powers. Robotic constructs, robots, of course it's frickin' robots. Why does it have to be robots? I'm not a big fan of robots, not just because they threaten my livelihood as an artist and content creator, but also because I had a traumatic encounter with a robot back in the day that has stayed with me since my early years. But moving on. As always, I judge which game has the most powerful and visually stunning movesets on offer, alongside how Sakura Stan keeps fumbling the bag. And as always, I ask you to consider subscribing to my channel and watching my other videos if you enjoy this one. You shouldn't be hesitant on your decision making though. Jenny Wakeman's gonna come and rip your face off. Alright, first up, and that's AUT's Delta. Kerr, be honest with me. Did you spend $1,000 on this spec? I'm asking because it feels like it. Now, if you watched me obtaining Delta back in the day, it was discovered that this thing is supposed to be a manifestation of the Delta interface dictating over the Fractured Islands and the Delta update specs, which is also inspired by an actual song. Double whammy on the lore and reference. Even without all that background knowledge, literally everything about Delta is beautiful. The effects are over the top. The animations are extravagant. Even the model is vibrant and continually in motion. Good lord, the amount of spinning triangles here be rewriting the Pythagorean theorem. Of course, this hype continues into Delta's playstyle. You can definitely draw out strings to the more basic attacks of this moveset, although combo potential here is admittedly more tame than other examples in AUT. Not to mention how Delta as a whole is objectively slow considering the size of this thing. It's as big as an isekai truck. But does the compromised momentum even matter? This spec has so much range with its passives, projectiles, and hitboxes that you can simply just breathe and wipe out a city block worth of opponents. And honestly, how do I talk about Delta's buffs and debuffs? The cores, the tether, the insanity. Competitive rules are completely thrown out the window. Grab your resistance potions. This is a freaking boss character. So to summarize, AUT clearly set out to make Delta the greatest ability in the history of the game's development, and it shows tenfold. Literally all of the dev team's blood, sweat, and tears were put into this thing, and it would be criminal to give it anything but a 10 out of 10. But before we continue, I should give a little context. Sakura Stan has two separate versions of its Eternal Wing, the game's spiritual rival to AUT's Delta, and another first for this series. I'm still reviewing both movesets in this video, although I'll evaluate my two judgments into one final score for Sakura Stan, like how I've done with JoJo poses in my ability comparison shorts, but not before showcasing both Eternal Wings individually. that's Sakura Stan's Eternal Wing, or wings, I'm sorry. So reading off whatever still exists of Sakura Stan lore, because let's face it, there's not really much left today. Eternal Wing is supposed to be this robot designed like a dragonfly and programmed to protect the innocent with its detachable wings. At some point in time, it ended up in a domain expansion where a completely unimportant tinkerer found Eternal Wing and brought it back to their workshop to disable its restraints. In other words, they unleashed it. Right off the bat, the whole dragonfly motif is a really clever idea. Alongside the detachable wings, they really add some character to these moves, even if everything suffers from outdated animation and effects. Is the cinematic move the same tempo as Stanley's Barrage? Yes. Is this still a cool looking beatdown? Unleashed follows these same principles, except the wings can now shoot lasers and God knows what else. There's more visually diversified attacks here, and the model is just base Eternal Wing gone Super Saiyan. I'm more enticed by Unleashed's moveset, but as for model notability, I'm sticking with Hatman over here. Simply put, these two have my creative seal of approval. Now we're on to playstyle, and oh boy is this a double-edged sword. Starting off with base Eternal Wing, which can technically be classified as an all-rounder, but honestly, the majority of this moveset is either close-range knockback or just completely unorthodox attacks. Most of the moves end too quickly, and the M1 coding is really funky, so there's very little combo potential here. And whatever combos you can pull off with base Eternal Wing are in juxtaposition to more than half the abilities in Sakura Stan with their long, drawn-out combos. No joke, this thing is actually depressing. Like, your only weapon is just tapping your opponent away until they die, or if you're lucky enough to kill them. Unleashed is a different story. For one, it's an unobtainable spec. I'm not kidding. And it's not like AUT's event specs that become obtainable during a certain time of the year. It was only given to players who had base Eternal Wing before Sakura Stan's Mastery tab was released. It's kind of like if you put Prime Mike Tyson up against Ronald Reagan with a nuclear warhead. Not that I'm suggesting Mike Tyson couldn't deck an intercontinental missile, but the whole normal person versus illegal weapon scenario kind of seems a little one-sided, like it isn't fair. Especially since Unleashed is one of the crazier movesets I've seen from this game. Very zony and very spammy. Seriously, unlike with base Eternal Wing, you can just sit back as your opponent gets sniped by this thing's numerous projectiles and AoE moves. Also, base Eternal Wing's beatdown is here. How cute. But can I do strings though? Absolutely. In fact, Unleashed M1s are so big with such a non-existent cooldown that you can essentially just land every single attack in one singular combo, regardless of knockback. Or you can just nonchalantly take away your opponent's health like the little gremlin that I am. Yes, not you. I'm a freaking can of Red Bull in real life. All in all, I like what Sakura Stan drew up with these original specs, although Unleashed is the one doing the heavy lifting here. Base Eternal Wing is a sad excuse for a moveset, and everything in general could use a visual overhaul. I'm still a sucker for both specs conceptually, and Unleashed has beautiful utility, so I'll give Sakura Stan a 9 out of 10. But obviously, both Eternal Wings have nothing when compared to AUT's Delta. I would like to thank everyone who participated in the community poll that decided on this ability comparison. I probably should have known that Delta and Eternal Wing would win, but I always like hearing feedback on these videos and what you want to see next on this channel. Also, massive shout out to everyone proposing ideas for future ability comparisons in the comments. You guys really are the brainstormers for these videos, but I'm really glad that we've grown a community that's able to exchange suggestions without hesitation. Keep the new topics rolling, fellas. That's all I have to say for now. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you later.